happened on that front.
Absolutely.
I mean, opportunity zones would be another great example that was part of tax reform. Opportunity zones brought billions of dollars into underserved communities around the nation. These are zip codes that are designated by governors as being in deep need of investment, and many of them had been blighted for a long time without capital coming in. And then those small businesses within those communities, when they started to get some traction and grow, they'd actually move out of the communities to better opportunities. So opportunity zones have been incredible in incentivizing private sector capital into these underserved communities, and creating an incentive for them to stay over the long term. So that's another very exciting public-private partnership.
It really is. And, you know, when wages started to increase for the first time in decades, it was actually in opportunity zones where the higher percentage of wage increase happened by 8%. So you're seeing even more success in those areas, and that's because of the president. But I'm sure...
And 33 million Americans live in an opportunity zone.
Right.
So it's extraordinary benefit for so many.
And I'm sure all the things you just outlined that they just heard, I'm sure you guys read about all these things in the national press, right? I'm sure they covered all these things and told you about all the successes, sure. Let me do another question from the audience. Marina? There you are. Thank you so much.
Hi, Marina.
And you touched on this before, but I think this really does warrant. It's a great question. It warrants a little bit more information. The expansion of vocational training within the private sector, something you've worked on really hard. Talk a little bit about that for the audience.
Well, this is a major personal passion of mine, and of the president and of the vice president as well. He did extraordinary things when he was governor of Indiana to advance access to vocational education. But fundamentally, we have a president who believes that there are many path A's that exist in America to great paying jobs. And for too long, we've stigmatized good paying opportunities in the skills trades, for example, in favor of four-year college. So four-year college is amazing. I went to a great school. He went to a great school. A lot of people go to a great school, but the vast majority of Americans don't. And we have to stop telling the next generation that that's the only pathway. Far too many people are going to college who don't want to be in college and incurring huge amounts, devastating amounts of student debt, and graduating, even worse, with an unmarketable skill, without the skills to secure a job. It's amazing that in this country, 3 in 10 Americans with a college degree are working in jobs that don't require one, displacing people who would have otherwise had those jobs. So the president rightfully wanted to open up the aperture and say, look, there are many great jobs, and let's celebrate all of them, because we need all of them to be a healthy and robust society. And so whether it's projects like our Pledge to America's Workers, the funding that he's put towards Pell Grants. We're for the first time expanding Pell Grants to shorter-term, high-quality programs. Because if you need to learn a new skill at 50 years old, you're probably not going to 2 or 4 year college. You want the ability to get retrained in a high-quality but shorter-term type program. And we have to be thinking about people receiving new skills and new educations at all ages, not just compartmentalized from 0 to 21. There are, with the rapid pace in which technology is changing, it's very likely that somebody has to learn new skills to do their existing job. Because of the speed of automation. So the president this year announced at the State of the Union that he was going to ensure that every single high school in America has vocational education, and that every American high school student has access to it. Because if you've never built something, you don't know if you know how to, or if you're passionate about it. So there has to be that exposure. So we're quite excited about that. And obviously that is an extension of another ambition of this administration in the second term, which will be advancing school choice. So every parent has the right to choose the education that is best for their children. So those are 2 very important education priorities that will prepare the future of this country for the work of tomorrow.
Well, I'm sure if you guys have been to a political event before, you often hear politicians speak in the abstract, meaning, if you elect me, I'm going to do this. if you put me in office, I promise I'll do that. Well, this president made a lot of promises in 2016, but he kept the promises, which I know is crazy to even think about a politician actually coming through on something they said they would do. And
But you had mentioned it before, but peace in the Middle East.
that's right. Right.
Peace in the Middle East. And by the way, it was part of keeping a promise because it was the right thing to do, which was moving the American embassy in Jerusalem to Jerusalem.
Right.
I mean, moving our embassy. How many presidents have promised this before and did not fulfill that promise, which this president did? And one of the great honors of my lifetime was being there on the day that it became official, which was extraordinary in Jerusalem. And I think we see the results. He did it. And all the fears were not realized of the naysayers, who I understand why they talked other presidents out of keeping their promise, again, to the point of needing to have strong convictions. Otherwise, it's very easy to be told or convinced not to do something that has been deemed hard. But it also helped foster peace in the region more generally. So within 30 days, he signed 2 peace deals, which for 25 years prior, there hadn't been a peace deal in the Middle East. And what does this mean? Obviously, peace is peace, right? It's the ultimate goal. But it also means that our troops no longer have to serve as permanent police in foreign countries around the globe. And we can bring them back. And we can reinvest that money in our community, and we can prevent them from being involved in engagements that they should not be in. So I think for this president, a lot of people did not believe that he would be somebody who fostered peace, but he had kept the promise of drawing down our troops. Last month, 2,000 troops came home from Iraq, and more are coming every single day. So it's a commitment he's made that he's fulfilled, and will continue to do so.
Well, all the experts said it couldn't be done, and they said they knew the right way to do it. It failed for decades. This guy comes in and does it in just a few years. It's very impressive. And
they also said he would drag us into wars.
Of course.
And he's done the exact opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. The
ending old conflicts.
Yeah, and that's something that I think the American people, the promises made, promises kept thing. I don't think a lot of people expected